Welcome to the Backpack Bushers podcast, brought to you by Enlightened Equipment, the best quilt makers in the world. Check them out at enlightenedequipment.com. With me today is a man who doesn't waste money on gear, but saves it for artificial snacks. Ben McCullough. How's it going?
It's going good. I love the artificial snacks. You know, I buy McDonald's in bulk, and then just, years later, I still have it. Do you have White Castle? I know not everywhere has White Castle, but they got the White Castle. There's suitcases you can buy, like 30 burgers, and they're like small little burgers. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be.
I was thinking more like the fruit by the foot that I found in your car.
Oh yeah, gushers.
Just wrappers of, I don't know, like Ritz with cheese, the like squeezed cheese in between. And what else did I see in there? There was like Hostess cakes, a lot of those.
Twinkies, yeah. Well, I like the snowballs.
Cookies, Twinkies. You had I think you had a stash like 100 Twinkies like under the seats. So there's
Costco. Anytime you go, you got to buy in bulk for your.
That's
it's the sugar. The sugar gets you up there, and the yellow dye number 5 helps.
It does kind of evens things out.
I think it hydrates you really well.
It does. It's an electrolyte.
Yeah.
So okay, we have an episode about speaking of wasting money. We had an episode about stop wasting money on like hiking gear traps is the phrase that our guest uses. He goes by the name of Mowser. He's an up and coming YouTuber, and he has some of the best ideas and some of the best advice because he's a hiking guide. So this is a guy. Should we trust this guy? What do you think?
I think so. I think he's one of the more trustworthy guys. He seems to know his stuff.
I think so too.
We'll find out. We'll have to be the judge afterwards.
Yeah. And Ben and I are not immune to wasting money. So after we chat with Mowser, we're going to talk about something that we've wasted money on that's outdoor related. So we got that coming up. And Ben, you got the Bible verse of the episode?
I do. This one's easy. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve 2 masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. So that's why I think I always throw my money away, is because I don't serve it.
That's right.
So
you're not a good steward of your money because you're like, I don't want to be tempted.
Let's just give it away. Yeah, let's just buy stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's the case, do you feel like that show Shark Tank is that like a
I love that show? Yeah,
because you're trying to be the master of money in that show.
They're trying to help people, Carl. They're solving problems that everyone has. I've always wanted to watch hummingbirds. It's always been like a big joy of mine to just sit and have they make one where you can wear a hummingbird feeder and have the hummingbirds come right up to your face and be inches away. So
right. Well, that's what the entrepreneurs are doing.
Yeah.
But the investors are all about just like, how can you make me money? Give me money. Right?
It is. Yeah. They're being good stewards though, because they turn down the bad deals.
All right. I think it's questionable at best. That's what I'll say. But
I think you're right.
We don't want to waste money, so we've got the expert Mowser who's going to tell us how to avoid it coming up right now. With us today is a mountain guide and up and coming YouTuber who gives some of the best advice. He lives in Tasmania. Mowser, how's it going today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Great to be here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us from across the world. What's the biggest stereotype people have about Tasmania?
Probably a local Australian one is that we often have 2 heads. A lot of people used to tease us a lot that Tasmanians are different, and they have a few jokes about us having 2 heads. That's 2-headed Tasmanians. When I was growing up, was the little jibe people would have.
Why? Just because you're
don't know.
Off the
Maybe
continent?
they thought we were, sort of off the continent and, bred amongst ourselves. I don't know, but
okay,
yeah,
interesting.
That's probably a bit of a thing, and that's about the only thing that sort of comes to mind. Other than that, we're at the bottom of the world, and people think we're maybe a little unique and a little relaxed, and not too used to the big city and the big smoke of mainland Australia.
I thought you were saying about the Tasmanian devil, that they're just running around all over the place. And
some people think that, but if you're from overseas, a lot of people think there's kangaroos just bouncing down the road in Sydney. So, but we certainly, you've got the Tasmanian devils, and you've got maybe even the Tasmanian tiger here in Australia or in Tasmania. That is elusive and hasn't been, it's been extinct for nearly 100 years. but there's a lot of people that thinks it's still around. So that does pique some interest from people as well.
Is that your version of the Bigfoot?
expeditions.
Is the Tasmanian tiger?
Yep, Tasmanian tiger, but it was actually a species here 100 years ago, but was driven to extinction.
Was it big? Is it a big thing or is it little? Like
about the size of a dog.
Okay.
And I know a couple of people who swear they have seen one. They've seen a Tasmanian tiger. They swear it ran across the road while they were driving. There's quite a lot of expeditions that have been run over the years. People coming here searching for signs of the Tasmanian tiger.
Okay.
There's a lot of remote wilderness where it could be hiding. I like to think it's still out there. You know, it's just down a little corner of the state, untouched, living its life and staying out of trouble.
It makes you feel good to know that it might be out there. Okay.
And here, my stereotype was like all Australians have a pet koala bear, you know, that they just have and hold. And you know,
we ride kangaroos to school in the morning.
Yeah,
when we're kids.
Well, that's right.
And boxed them, I hear.
Well, I was down your way a while back, and I was looking for the Tasmanian devil, and we were driving down one of the roads, and I thought I saw a Tasmanian devil as roadkill in the middle of the road. So I pulled over. I don't know the name of the road. I think it was like a highway. So super busy road, and I got out with my video camera to see. I think I found one, even though it was dead. And then I got as cars are whizzing by, I'm like the dumb tourist, and I was taking a picture of a possum, I think is what that was. So, yeah, I tried.
I was probably driving by, just going.
Yeah, you're like, who's that guy? What's
who's that guy?
Americans.
Yeah. All right, Ben, what you got?
Yeah. So let's get into some of your content that you've been doing. You shared about making mistakes on a recent YouTube. So you obviously don't mind sharing mistakes you've made from years of experience, but what is your biggest backpacking blunder?
Well, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind, I mean, I've been hiking for over 30 years, 35 years, and luckily I haven't made too many lately, but probably the biggest one I've made was 25 years ago when we got to a really awesome mountain range. We'd hiked there for a couple of days, and on the big day that we got up onto the range, we got to our campsite, had the awesome view of this amazing peak called Federation Peak, and I turned around to see my mate standing there with his head in his hands like he was about to cry. And I was like, what's the matter? And he goes, I've lost the tent poles. I can't find the tent poles. And we're on this exposed mountain ridge, and I'm sitting there, and it's dusk. It's getting started, you know, it's going to be dark in an hour or so. And I'm just there going, oh, like, what do we do here? So that's probably the biggest blunder. He rushed back down the trail to try and find these tent poles. But we'd been walking for about 8 hours that day, and I thought, guaranteed they're way back in some scrub or some bush somewhere. Right. So he arrived back. I'd managed to string up our tent into like a tarp setup, and we slept under that for the evening. Luckily, the weather stayed fine, but the area is renowned for bad weather, and that was our main concern. But we lived to tell the tale. And probably equal with that is another one, which I don't know if I've mentioned on my channel before, but when I was guiding some friends on a pretty tough mountainous hike here, and I told them just to go ahead and wait, but instead they tried to go down a small cliff, and they dropped their backpack off a 400-meter cliff into a valley below, and that was never to be seen again. Brand new backpack, brand new gear.
What? Wait, how do you drop a backpack? How do you drop it?
So here in Tasmania, there can often be pack hauling, so you've got quite severe drops where you're not carrying ropes and climbing gear. You might just carry a small rope for pack hauling, and we actually had one, but they decided they'd just pass the pack down this cliff to the next person. They passed it down. The person slipped a bit, let go of the pack, and then it's just rolled off down this little valley behind them, and just I've arrived and seen this pack midair sort of flying out off this cliff. And you're not getting to the bottom of this cliff. Like it is a very remote area. We did try to go back and get it, but and on a separate trip, but it was just too thick to scrub and just trying to access the base of this cliff. So that pack still sits there.
Is there some good stuff in that
30
pack?
years later.
Is this worth the effort? Like, should we go? Is it like a wallet full of cash?
It probably is. I mean, the pack was literally 2 days old. Like, it was brand new. It had new gear in it. Yeah. It's probably
how you get it is you just share it. You put a point on the map, and you just tell people there's a treasure there.
We could do
I
that.
know. This is like Forrest Fenn's treasure all over again with a backpack. It's been dropped off a cliff, and although it's probably been weathered right now, I'm not sure the backpack's worth anything, but if there's still some goodies inside, like a stove or some like a wallet full of cash, or I don't know, if he happened to be carrying gold with him, that'd be great. That'd be a better story, obviously. So
did you take like dog
now
bones and tuck it down onto the pack so people think it's like more of a mystery?
Yeah.
Like they find the bones in the backpack.
Yeah. Actually, it would be a good mission to go back and try and find that some 25, 26 years later. Might be something to do in the future for a video.
Oh. We did we were doing like a GoPro shot on this like waterfall stream. Somebody's jumping in behind them, and the camera came off and went to the bottom of the stream, but there's all this white water there, and it's probably been frozen and unfrozen for years now, but I've always wanted to go back and get that. So I don't know. Just a thought, but all right. So the first story you shared though, like you shared that on your YouTube channel. And when I heard you first share it, I was like, was this your friend that lost the poles, or is this you that lost the poles? That was my reaction. Like,
I didn't say it.
Went down there. I saved the day stringing up the rain tarp, or whatever, but my friend was the one.
Yeah.
Did I uncover
this? No, it was one of my best friends, still is today. He actually lives in America, lives in Portland. Okay. So he'll probably figure out who I'm talking about now. But,
gotcha.
He will.
All right. Well,
and a few of my other friends.
Please confirm the story's accurate and that he's not telling.
Yeah. I'm more curious, was it the same guy that dropped the backpack? I mean, are we noticing a trend like 25 years later?
He was on both trips.
Okay.
He didn't drop the backpack. I think that was someone else.
When you talk about your biggest blunder trips, is he on most of these trips? Is this the kind of the common thread here?
No, that was 2 trips where there was both of us there, but there were others as well.
Because I have that guy in my group who's on all the trips where debacles happen.
Yep. I hear you.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So another thing is your brutally honest pieces of advice is know your limitations, which I like because sometimes we don't know our limitations. As a trip planner and leader, how do you get people to come to grips with their actual ability?
Well, when I'm planning a hike, I sort of try to plan it normally if it's with people I know, I will plan it so it's not too hard based on the people I'm going with's ability. And I've had a lot of experience taking new hikers over the years hiking. So I can often sort of pick a walk that will I'll gauge their experience and their level of fitness, all that sort of thing. And we'll do a walk that might test them a bit, but won't be too much. And I know we've got options if things did become too much. We've got exit options. We've got options just to chill out and camp and that sort of thing.
Right.
But as a guide, when I'm taking paid clients, we've got a bit of a screening process, and hopefully everyone's honest in that process. But if they're not, then it can be something you've got to deal with out on the trail. But again, when I've done these paid trips as a guide, I'm on a well-known trail that I'm really quite familiar with, and I know sort of all my options, that sort of thing as well, and how I can handle any situation.
As part of the screening process is like if they pay you more, you're more willing to like put up with their inabilities.
I mean, that's probably the idea for the company I used to work for. Maybe. I mean, it could be challenging at times, and you would find things out sometimes, that weren't disclosed. There's plenty of stories there where you'd get, halfway through day one and you're turning around, taking them back out because, they've got an issue they didn't tell you about. But that's something, as a guide, you'd have to deal with. And all guides.
Okay, so you walk them back out. You're like, we're turning. You're gonna have to turn
there's
around.
lots of options. Yeah, sometimes that would be an option. Sometimes another guide would come in and take them out. There's been all sorts of crazy stories from all the guides I know who've had to deal with sort of situations along the way.
Sounds like, Ben, it is socially appropriate to walk somebody out if they can't handle the trip. So Ben, if you get walked out on a trip, I don't think you can be offended by that. I think that
as long as you hold my hand, Carl, as you walk me out,
Okay.
And it's always voluntary. I've never had to tell someone you're walking out. That's always been, they've always brought it up first. But, and that hasn't occurred for a long time. But when you're taking, especially now, I'd mainly take friends who haven't hiked a lot these days. And for example, I'm taking a bunch of friends this weekend on our annual adventure weekend, and I've planned the hike around that. To be something pretty straightforward that we can all sort of handle and still have a good time as well.
Sure. Okay. So one thing we kind of talk about on the podcast that comes up frequently when we talk about trip planning and being a group leader is mutiny on the trail. You know, sometimes it's like, let's go this way because this is the trail we planned. And people are like, no, let's go up and over and try to find this lake. How do you deal with that?
Generally, when I'm hiking with friends, we'll have a friendly conversation. You know, we'll decide and, you know, tend to go with the majority. Unless, you know, I might have a mate who's really good at navigation and I'll say, hey, guys, listen to this guy. Like, he has a good point here. Maybe we should go this way. But generally, these days, we'll come to a pretty good group consensus. If I have someone who is just set on, right, I'm going this way, and they really want to go that way, in the past, I have had someone say to me, look, I'm going this way. You can't stop me. And that's what I'm doing.
You told that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So I had someone that did that, and that was on a paid trip for a company I was working for. And I explained, look, if you go, I have to go with you, and then I leave 9 other people with one guide, and that's not fair. And they're your friends, and it's not fair on them. And and they were like, oh, I'm definitely doing that. And I was like, well, what do I do here? So I had to. It was back in the days of sat phones in briefcases, so we had one of those with us, and we had to call into our boss and say, what do we do? And they're like, let them go, let them go.
Wow.
Did fill out a little release of care form. I don't know how legally binding that was, but they left and they did the walk they wanted to do.
Okay.
Nice.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But again, it's not a situation you want to be in. If it was with a friend, I'd just sort of explain, so we're going this way. Look, trust me, if it was something, generally I'm hiking with people of my level of experience or less. And I've never sort of had an issue with someone sort of saying, again, I'm going that way.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping for some tips. Like, we have people, if I say, okay, we're going to do a trip and we're going to be going to Antarctica, we're going to be going 70 miles a day. You have 100-pound pack on. Like, there's guys that are like, you know, I haven't exercised in decades, but I think I'm up for this trip. And so,
now that you mention it,
I was like, you make it sound so easy. Just like, know your limitations. But I was like, people that clearly should know their limitations, still, they just saying that, I don't know, doesn't seem to solve the problem, I guess.
No, and also I do hiking consulting for people as well, and I do get the occasional person that will say, right, I'm coming to Tasmania, I want to do this epic walk that I've read about, I'm doing that. And I'll say, well, what have you done lately? And they're like, oh, I haven't hiked for like 10 years. And I'll be like, that's probably not the best one to go and start with. What I'd be doing first is maybe at home, do a day walk, do a lot of day walks, build up to an overnight walk, build up to a 2-night walk, build up to a 3-night walk, and then come down and do this 5 or 6 night walk. I wouldn't just go out and do this walk straight away. Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, but I do running and, you know, I'm pretty fit. And I'll be like, yeah, it's a different kind of fitness. You need to be training with a backpack on and doing all that sort of stuff before you even think about coming and doing a multi-day trip. Yeah. So, and look, people won't always listen to that advice. And I've seen people come down and they'll head out on a trip after been advised to maybe do a bit more training and that type of thing. And then I'll hear stories of how they've turned around on day one and had to quit and change their trip plans. And
interesting.
So not everyone always listens to that advice.
That's a nice way of saying it, is basically like, what's your recent hiking resume? And if it's not up to par, then maybe reconsider. So that's a good way of putting it.
I guess we got to start having applications, Carl. Like,
that's fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do some pretty crazy off-track expeditions here with friends. You know, it could be up to sort of 10, 12, 13 days at times. And, you know, I'll say, you know, and I've got my core group of buddies that we go on these, and we all know each other's ability and we're comfortable going with each other. If someone else, good friend, comes along and says, oh, yeah, that sounds cool, I might come on that. And I'll be like, but you haven't done a 2-night hike in like 12 years. I don't think it's good. Oh, no, but yeah, so you just got to be blunt in those situations and stuff.
Just no, you can't
Not
go.
a good idea. Yeah.
So how do you deal with all the, like, I'm told in Australia, everything can kill you there. Like, all animals are dangerous.
Yeah. That's not...
This is true.
I'm just thinking about that. Like,
it's not related at all to what we're talking about.
It is. To me, it is, because that's my limitation. Is I'm you know,
your limitation is that you're allergic to deadly animals. What's
that's my limitation.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty comfortable hiking here in Australia. I mean, if I came to North America, I'd just be freaking out about bears the whole time. That's all I would be able to think about. I haven't hiked in North America, but that would be the main thing on my mind. In Australia, I've got to worry
Okay.
about maybe treading on a snake.
Yeah,
hopefully
good thing
I
here
would
is
survive that.
bears aren't poisonous.
Yeah,
That's true.
but that just bites you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their bites are benign, so it's like,
Yeah. It's like snake bite, bear bite.
Yeah.
Same thing, really.
Right.
Close. Yeah, very close.
All right.
But no, that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the topics you had out recently is hiking gear traps or backpacking gear traps, and you put out a video, and obviously, like when you're on YouTube, you're putting like the video is kind of going in one direction, and you can respond to comments and this and that, but you're not always getting like that immediate feedback about some of these things. So this is our opportunity to have feedback and react with questions and comments. And so I picked out 4 or 5 of them, and so. Like, can you just like quick thoughts about each one as far as why it's a hiking gear trap? And then we've got some follow-up thoughts and questions we're going to throw at you. So, Ben, what's the first one?
The first one, carbon fiber trekking poles.
Yep. Gear trap, maybe for me. Well, I think carbon fiber trekking poles are great for sort of running, that sort of thing, when you want to be light, doing day hikes, that sort of thing. But I have had trouble with them in the past in that once they break, they stay broken. You're really going to struggle to fix them.
Right, they're not fixable.
I've broken 2 sets in the last 3 or 4 years that I can think of carbon fiber trekking poles. But I am tough on my gear, so that's the first point. Yeah. I'm very tough on my gear. It's pretty rare for me to come back from a week-long trip and not have some bit of damage in the terrain we go through.
What are you doing?
I mean, my friends will say that I'm a bit uncoordinated sometimes. They'll say, I slip over and I fall over. But a lot of the time we're dealing with a lot of mud and slippery, steep slopes. So those trekking poles, I've been coming down fast down a peak. I think on one occasion coming down fast on a peak, moving pretty quick, and I've just my feet have slid out from under me in the mud, and I've just gone bang all my weight onto the trekking poles, and one of them snapped instantly with all my weight on it. I'm not a small guy, so I've slid out from under it. The poles have stayed stuck in the ground and just snapped under my weight. And another time, and I've done this with an aluminium pole as well, is where I'm moving through quite a deep muddy section, and I've moved forward pretty quick into some deep mud, gone knee deep straight away.
Oh,
my pole is over here. And then I've tried to adjust my weight to get out of the mud quickly, and I've moved over onto the trekking pole. The trekking pole's stuck in the mud as well, and all my weight's gone over on the trekking pole, which is then bent on the edge of the mud pool that I'm in and snapped in half as well.
You got a lot of mud there, it sounds like. It sounds like mud's the big issue.
The plains here can get pretty muddy, especially if they're a well-trodden trail. You can have... I mean, last week on the hike I was on for 8 days, we had waist-deep mud for the last couple of days in quite a few sections. So,
I don't think that's
it can get pretty tough.
Waist-deep mud.
Waist-deep. I was thinking lightning sand.
Yeah.
It can be fun at the right time, but after a few years, you can get pretty sick of it.
Yeah. You answered some of my questions. I had thoughts about as far as like why they're breaking. I don't think you explained that. And so, because you're like, check out all these poles that I broke, and you showed them, and I have one of them that I've used for years, the Black Diamond Carbon Z poles, I think they're called.
Yep.
And I love them. I
broke them.
I mean, we get mud too. It doesn't sound like as bad as you. So I haven't had the torque on them. But then I think you kind of wrapped up your thought by recommending the Durston poles. And I just felt like I was confused because the Durston poles, they don't have the wrist straps, and I put a ton of torque on my wrist straps and my poles when I'm using them. And I thought, well, if you're breaking your poles, you're probably putting a ton of torque on yours. Wouldn't you want the wrist straps?
That was the issue. Yeah, so you can get the Durstons with the wrist straps now.
Okay, okay.
That comes as an option. So I've got them.
Okay.
Yep, and they're really good.
Okay.
And the reasons I nearly went with another Black Diamond aluminum pole. But the reason I went with the Durstons is they are completely modular. So I can go to Durston's website and buy the bottom section of the pole. I can buy the top section. I can buy a new wrist strap. So I don't have to replace the whole pole. And that is the main reason I went with it. And they're also really light, which is great as well. But I just had them on an 8-day trip. This is the first real test they've had in all the mud and on beaches and rocky terrain. And they were fantastic. Loved them. Didn't break them. I actually it did one of those muddy situations. I did put a bit of pressure on. I thought, ooh, could be in trouble again, but I didn't break them. The only thing I didn't like when I bought them was that they don't come with a basket on the bottom. So there's no basket.
Like a mud basket.
I'd like if Dan had the option to buy the Compodel basket, which I bought separately on the bottom, because I like a basket in mud, and I like if in winter, if there's snow, I like a basket as well. So, but apart from that, they're great.
Okay. Well, we had Durson on
other
2 months ago. Go ahead. Sorry.
The only other issue you might have with them, and given my clumsiness sometimes, because you don't have like the wire in the middle like you do with the Z poles. They're modular, they separate completely and aren't joined together. If I'm not putting them back in the little Dyneema bag that came with them, which I'm just stuffing them in the side of my pack, I could lose a part of the pole.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the tent poles. Yeah, like that's
okay.
So yeah, we had Durson on our show a few months ago, and at the time he did not have the straps, and I guess I haven't checked back since. We kind of semi-scolded him. Yeah, we semi-scolded him about it. Ben, do you think he added the straps because of us? Because
I honestly think after the interview, like immediately afterwards, he just went to the warehouse and said, "Let's get straps and do it."
Makes sense.
So, yeah,
you're welcome, everybody. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have trademarked it or tried to get royalties off that or something. But I guess
absolutely,
we'll learn next time.
Okay, your next one was don't buy premium clothing gear unless your adventures really warrant it. So what? Yeah. So what does that mean? And when do you know if your adventures warrant buying the good stuff?
Well, I guess what I'm getting at there is more at people who aren't going out that often, who are just getting into it and don't know if they want to be. They don't even know if they like it as much yet. Hiking.
Yeah.
I know my wife. She likes to go for a hike, and she will, come out with me on a day walk. But she doesn't want to come out on a week-long trip where there's no shower and we're going to smell. So she doesn't need a crazy Gore-Tex, high level Gore-Tex Pro raincoat. She can get by with something a bit lighter, something not as durable, that is a bit lighter and a bit more comfortable for her. If she's decided that I want to come out on one of your big expeditions with you, I want to go out and do a 5-day trip, and then I might say, right, we better upgrade your rain jacket, or we better get you some better rain pants, or a slightly bigger pack, or a better fleece, or a better down jacket, or something like that. So it just sort of depends on if you're getting into that vibe where you just want to go hiking at every opportunity, then you should, maybe look at upgrading your gear, getting some better quality stuff that's going to last longer, that type of thing. But if you're not sure yet, if you're just not that into it, then I'd be just sort of getting by with what you can for the time being until you're really sure it's something you want to pursue and do regularly.
Yeah, this is not unique to backpacking. There's people like all over for any hobby that are like, I'm new, I'm just going to try it out, but I'm going to buy the best stuff out the gate. The term that I have for those people are just they're just rich people, right? They just have a lot of money to burn.
But I mean, I guess for me though, some of the premium like stuff can actually help your adventure or break your adventure, right? So at what point do you look at that? Like if you're a newbie and you get horrible shoes where the soles fall off and your camping stove doesn't work, then it makes it horrible and you're not going to backpack. So like for you, for those circumstances, what would you say?
Well, if you're just getting into it and you do want to buy something that, is going to be of a better quality, I'd probably be looking first at, my footwear. And the other thing I'd look at, and I'm just looking at when I started out, was because it rains a lot here in Tasmania, is a rain jacket, a good rain jacket and good footwear is what I started out with when I was, 35 years ago when I started hiking, and then I'd borrow most of the other stuff. I had, my basic clothing, I had my fleeces and stuff, but they were the two main ones that I started with, followed closely by a backpack and a tent and that type of thing. But the two of the best sort of investments you can make for starters are in your footwear and in good rain gear. If you're in an area where it's raining a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree with the footwear. That can definitely make it or break it.
Yeah, and back then, it was all hiking boots. Everyone wore was hiking boots. But these days, obviously, trail shoes are huge. I do a lot of trail running, and I like my trail runners, but I tend to still wear good boots here in Tassie a lot. I get told off a lot for that sometimes in the comments, but the terrain here is just unforgiving. You rip shoes apart pretty quickly in the off-track stuff here. On the open trails, it's fine, but I still like my good solid boots.
So actually, I mean, and that's another one you had on here was don't invest in cheap footwear. And so let me follow up with that thought, because like okay, first of all, you had, when you talked about that, you had a shot of like your shoes, I think it's your shoes, as reference. So you had this like camera shot where you're like, like invest in good footwear. And then here's my shoes, I think. And there was like 100 pairs of shoes. Are you like, do you have like a quiver of shoes? You're like, well, under these conditions, I'm going to go with these. Or these, I'm going to go with these. Like, how do you, or is that like what?
His second bedroom is just a shoe closet.
Yeah, I'm a reformed shoe holic. Like I had a bit of a problem there. My wife will attest to this. She'll go, okay, what are those shoes you're wearing today? I said, I've had these for months. She's like, no, you haven't. So yeah, when I was doing a lot of trail running, I wanted to try out every shoe. I wanted to try all the trail runners. I had racing shoes, I had road racing shoes, I had trail racing shoes. So that sort of became a bit of a problem. But I'm off the shoes at the moment. I haven't bought any for a while. Like one pair a year.
I was a little jealous. I'll be honest. So
what's your top shoe then? I mean, since you've tried so many.
Top shoe.
Lately I've been liking my Nike Zagamas. I really enjoy them. As well as I would like La Sportivas a bit more, the Raptors, and I've got Raptor and the Akashas as well. But the soles on them, they're too soft. They wear too quick. I really want a Vibram sole on my trail shoes. That's what I'm really after. But I am actually talking about shoes. I was looking online this morning at some Hoka Speed Goats as well. So
nice.
Yeah,
I got the La Sportivas, and I stepped in dog poop, and I haven't cleaned them off, so I haven't worn them for like a month.
I hear you.
Just letting you know.
Just leave them outside.
I tried, and they're
let
still
someone do
a month later.
You just got to.
That was Ben's best story he's ever shared on the podcast, right there. That's hilarious. I have these really expensive brand new pair of shoes, but I stepped in dog poo, so I just like let them sit there, and rust over. All right, I got a shoe scenario for you, and this really did happen. So there was a guy who was looking to do a long day in Yosemite, we'll say like 50 miles, and rough trail conditions. The pass he was climbing over still had snow and ice on it, but he was trying to go light and fast. So he intentionally made some controversial gear decisions, and one of them was about the shoes. And so in order to go light and fast and to have, reduced wear and tear, he brought road running shoes for this journey. What would you say to the guy that made that decision?
Before or after his little journey? Before.
Well, after means he made it, and before you don't know if he's going to make it or not, right?
I'd say maybe they're not the right shoe. Like I have a lot of road running shoes, and there's basically no grip on those things. They're slippery.
Right.
They sit higher off the ground, a lot of them, and I find the toe box on a lot of them as well isn't as wide. So
that's true.
Probably going to get blisters in the toes, and I don't know. It just doesn't sound like a sensible decision to me. If you're trying to save weight, there's plenty of lightweight trail shoes still. Yeah,
there are. Yeah, these ones are significantly lighter weight than trail shoes, but
probably not what I'd be going for if I was going to do 50 miles. That's a big day.
It's a big day for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'd definitely prefer.
I did it anyway,
nice
and it probably wasn't a very wise decision. I think I had to throw the shoes away afterwards, but the end, I had to make some strategic decisions just to get to the end. So I think it was worth it. But I know that was a controversial decision, and I don't. Yeah, you're right about the grip and specifically the wear and tear on the shoes. Like that's
right.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the drawbacks for sure.
The main thing for me would be the grip. Like I find I slip around, especially wet rocks and stuff all the time. Probably similar there if it was wet, but I just like the comfort of a sticky sole.
Yeah. Oh yeah, nothing beats that.
And full disclosure, I guess more of the backstory is like most of my running is trail running, and I always use road shoes on the trail running, just kind of going out 3 to 6 miles. But we also don't have rivers of mud here. It sounds like you do, so it's not quite the same.
Waist deep mud. I think I would lose my
favorite shoe?
For that one I use the Hoka Rincon 2s or 3s, which is not a very popular Hoka shoe. And then they, you know how they update shoes and then they like wreck them. So now I'm in the process of trying out different ones. But I just got back from backpacking trip and used the Speed Goats, and those things wear out faster than I want to, but they make my feet feel good. So there's that.
I read some in this Hoka Speed Goat 6 that some people didn't like some of the redesign in there.
Right. Yeah. And that's another one. Yeah. That happened again. So
I read somewhere.
People are buying up the previous model, which is, I mean, really that's like a pro tip is if you find a shoe that you love, if you can buy it up, especially when it goes on clearance, because they're always updating, just buy up a bunch of them because they might change something that you like about it. And sometimes it's a radical change. It's not even like a small change, and then they just wreck it. And so I don't know why
I had that with Morels. I bought Morels, and then they changed the fabric on the outside, and I hated him.
Yeah. It's not uncommon.
Those are my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next one you have on your list, this is probably my favorite one because I'm totally in agreement with you on this one.
The next one is a trekking pole tent.
Why is this a trap? A money trap? What's going on with this?
Because if you lose your tent pole, you're out.
I'm not asking you, Ben. This is not for you. You're not getting interviewed. Sorry.
I guess it's under the guise that a lot of the trekking pole tents are, they're made from more expensive fabrics and materials like, the Dyneema and that type of thing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then also when you look at premium tents these days, a lot of them are getting pretty expensive too. So, for example, like, Durston only today released the new X-Dome 2. That's a pretty expensive tent.
Right.
And that's not a trekking pole tent. That, comes with poles.
Right. Carbon fiber.
I'm pretty keen on it though, but it isn't expensive. But yeah, in general, trekking pole tents, why are they expensive? Well, I would say fabric. But having said that, I've got a friend who's got, a Lanshan trekking pole tent, and that was it was like $120 here in Australia.
Yeah, so that's okay. And so here's where that question comes from, is because we've had different gear companies come on, we've had different tent makers come on, and we hear that the majority of the cost for tents, one company even said 80% of the cost of the tent is in the poles. And so if you're taking the poles out of it, shouldn't it be a $120 tent or, a $200 tent? I get that there's like, R&D costs and that kind of thing. But I feel like every time we ask that question directly, they're always like, well, and they just say like complicated things that don't really make sense. But I just thought we're going to ask you, the mountain guide who's had a lot of tent experience. Do you have any thoughts on why is it just a simple markup, or what's the reason you think?
I can't think of any real good reason why they should cost more, a trekking pole tent. I get it. The poles would have some cost. But I mean, my trekking poles, the Durston trekking poles aren't that expensive, I would say. Like for a trekking pole, you can go crazy with trekking poles. There's more expensive ones out there, and they're one of the lightest ones in the world. Tent poles. I mean, I've got a tarp tent, Stratospire Li. That's about 450 Australian dollars, I think, which I thought, that's pretty reasonable for a two-person tent, although I don't know if I'd use it for two people. It's pretty small.
Right.
And then, and then you look at something like the Durston, you're paying another $300, and that's got its own poles.
Right.
I guess there's a bit of an answer there, I suppose, with the trekking, with the poles, but
right.
Yeah, but I think I feel like in the next few years there's going to be some pretty exciting advancements in tent technology.
Really?
So I'd just see. I don't know. That's what I feel.
Okay.
What? Give us an example.
I don't know. I just think it's going to get. They'll come up with some crazy new alternative. Well, they're already coming up with alternatives to Dyneema, but more lightweight materials. Tents now, like my Stratospire's maybe 700 grams, I think. Not even that. I don't know what that is in ounces off the top of my head. I just think you just look at the way it's come in the last 10 years, and I think just in the next 10 years, it's going to be, we'll see some interesting developments. That's my thoughts anyway. I have no insider knowledge.
I was expecting more like Back to the Future type stuff. Like I thought there'd be floating tents or something, or, trekking poles that do something cool, I don't know. But, all right.
Or using alien technology for for the sake of backpacking. So
Right.
just,
Yeah.
We'll stay tuned.
That's the first thing they're going to use alien technology for is backpacking.
Well, they've already been using it, for time travel. So might as well kind of, go into backpacking next, right?
Right.
No, I mean, I'm just looking forward to, like hiking food, like on Back to the Future, where you just put a bit of water on a tiny little thing, and then all of a sudden it's a massive beach or something. Yeah.
The rehydration. Yeah.
Yeah. Although they have
Yeah.
made a lot of advancements in good tasting dehydrated meals. And so there's that. But all right, if you want to hear more about essentially money traps or hiking gear traps, he goes more into detail. Check it out. We'll have it linked in our show description.
Yeah. No
Okay,
worries.
it's time for the lightning round. So you got 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can. So these could be anything from just your opinions on stuff, fun questions, silly questions, whatever. And then typically people get about 8 questions, right? We've had as many as 13. So that's your challenge. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
What's better, Bears, Beats, or Battlestar Galactica?
Beats.
What is the best Australian food?
Steak.
Ooh. Favorite licorice brand?
Daryl Lee.
Ooh, I haven't heard that one.
A trail on your bucket list.
I only just discovered it. The massive DNT in Norway.
Oh, okay.
Favorite place to vacation, or I guess you might say holiday?
Tasmania.
All right. Food you refuse to eat.
Salmiakki, which is a Finnish food.
Ooh.
Okay.
Has anyone ever stolen your YouTube ideas?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. An irrational fear you had now or as a child?
Bears.
Carl or Derek?
Derek.
Oh, all right. And time. All right. That's a little zinger right there at the end.
Yeah.
You're talking, you're like name dropping all these like foreign foods. You go to Norway, you're all over the place, but your favorite place to go vacationing is Tasmania, huh?
So that's my home. I'll always live here. I love it. I love to travel, but gee, it's good.
Yeah.
All right. That's where you want to be then. You want to live in a place that's your favorite place.
That makes
That's
sense.
awesome.
That makes
That's
sense.
it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Carl, have you ever stolen anyone's YouTube ideas?
I was inspired by a YouTube idea that I saw on this Tasmanian's channel, and I told him about it ahead of time.
You did.
Yeah. So did you see the episode that I put out about that, or that was inspired by yours?
Was I listening to that this
I
morning?
changed it to inspired.
Inspired.
Was
Keyword.
that the one?
Not stolen.
I asked 100,000 hikers. Was that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that one.
I saw
You
it.
asked
I started listening to it.
18,000. I don't know what you asked. You asked a bunch of you basically asked your audience for feedback, and I was like, "That's a good idea." It's just to kind of generate that. But you actually just shared like legitimate answers, whereas Derek and I just like made fun of all the responses that we got because there's a lot of nonsense on there. So not quite the same episode, but yeah.
I just did another one, a similar vibe. Yeah.
Okay. I saw that one too, and I was it worked the first time, right?
A bit of
Were
fun.
you upset when you saw our episode about that?
Not at all. I thought it was great. I just started listening to it when I was driving my kids to school this morning.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Well, I'm glad.
Like,
I don't.
my kids are like, "Who are these guys?" And I was like,
Yeah. why are they stealing my dad's idea?
No, they
Have you
they don't listen. We already established they don't listen to his YouTube channel. So they're like, "Dad, this is a great idea. You should do it."
Yeah, you should use this idea. That's funny. Yeah, I was telling him before we started hit record that he's got some of the best YouTube ideas out there, and so I just thought that one was super cool. And so that inspired one. But surely you've had people, maybe you haven't noticed yet, but with your ideas, I'm sure you have people like straight up ripping you off. Like we're not even that big on YouTube. We've had people ripping us off with like thumbnail ideas and stuff, like a week after the fact. And so
I take inspiration from other videos and stuff. I just try to differentiate them a bit and take a different sort of take on things or a different sort of idea on another theme. Yeah.
Right.
But it's bound to happen at some stage.
See, he does it too, Ben, is what he's saying.
I got it. Yeah, makes sense. It's flattering.
All right. So what can we look forward to on your YouTube channel coming up?
Well, we've got heaps coming up. what I'm looking really forward to at the moment is doing some detailed sort of trip planning videos, and that's where I've gone out to my audience again, and I've said to them, if you could hike anywhere in the world, give me a hike that I could do, and I will show you exactly how I'd plan it from here in Tasmania. So that'll be how to get to the country that it's in, the gear I'm going to take, the food I'm going to need, how I'm going to plan the whole trip. So I'm working on that at the moment. There's a bunch of people left a bunch of really awesome ideas, and I'm trying to figure out how I can go and do those actual hikes now. But I'm going to do that planning video. I'll probably do a couple of them because there's some really good tips.
That's a
really
crazy
good
idea. See, you're the ideas guy. You got some awesome ideas. I love that.
And then we've got a few digital products in the works too. And plus the usual, we're going to have a few more gear reviews coming up soon, some other trail hacks, and some more hiking tips that actually work. I am going to try and get my friend on at some stage, who is very, very cheap with his gear, and he buys very cheap gear. So I'd like to get him on at some stage to talk us through his strategies. And when you talk of shoes, he just did this 8-day hike with me in these trail shoes he bought off AliExpress. And they actually held up really well. So that's coming up.
Wait, is this the same friend that lost the tent poles and threw a pack off the ledge?
Different friend.
Different friend. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That friend that did that, Carl, lives in Portland, and if you know, we're doing a timberline trail, so we should invite him and see what epic fails we can have.
Yeah. Well, hey, you can come on that trail. We're doing that at the end of August, which is kind of, what is that, like the tail end of your winter right there? So you probably want a warm weather trip, and so let us know. You can invite your buddy. We could have all sorts of. We could have a cavalcade of characters along.
I do want to get over to your neck of the woods very soon, so I will definitely drop you a line when I do.
Yeah, and when you do, we have an application process to make sure that you can stay and keep up with us.
Cool, makes sense. Yeah, I'll fill out the form, send it over.
Have you been backpacking recently? Are you just running? Because hiking, all that stuff. Yeah, that's funny. All right.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mowser.
We'll have links in our show description. Check it out. And Mowser, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, loved it, guys. So much. Thanks so much. And take it easy.
Out on the trail, capability isn't optional. It's essential. That's why I'm using Case knives. Boom. Built for whatever comes your way, these knives have been trusted for more than 100 years. On the job, in the wild, and even to the moon. Made with craftsmanship in Bradford, Pennsylvania, every Case knife is a piece of American grit you can count on. Whether you're splitting kindling, cutting paracord, or just cutting up some tape to take care of a blister. Case knives, every day capable. The trail is calling your name. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Our good friend Rowan from Summit Strength can get you trail ready. Rowan uses rock-solid evidence to design a specialized training program just for you. There are plenty of cookie cutter programs out there that will get you only halfway up the mountain. Make it to your adventure summit with Summit Strength. The link to your success is always in our episode description, but you can check out all the information you need at summitstrength.com.au/online. It's time to be strong and pain-free for your next adventure. All right, Ben, what'd you think about that?
I thought it was good. Yeah, so let's talk about the shoes, right? He had a lot of shoe advice. He got a lot of shoes, actually. I forget the number he said, but I like that. So his footwear was, I think, on point.
Okay. Yeah, and he's more likely to wear kind of the hardier shoes. And that kind of goes with my big takeaway is what kept on coming up, like a recurring theme with our conversation, was he kept on talking about mud and how there's like rivers of mud in Tasmania.
Right.
And it's like why he's breaking trekking poles and why he's got to have good shoes and stuff. I just thought, like, rivers of mud, like, who wants to go back? Okay, who wants to go backpacking in that? So my first question is he overplaying that a little bit? Is he trying to convince people not to come to Tasmania because he doesn't want to get crowded there? Or is this really like what backpacking is like there?
I think that's what it's like. I hope so. I mean, I kept thinking of Princess Bride with the quicksand, you know? Like, you go to Tasmania, it's the same as Princess Bride, going through the jungles and the forest there. So that's all I could think about.
If I told you, hey, Ben, we're going to go on a backpacking trip, and there's a good chance that at some point you're going to be up to your waist in mud. Are you excited? Or are you like, I don't know if I want to go on that trip?
I would be excited. I like the challenge. We talk about, both me and you did adventure racing, and that's some of the fun stuff, was going through rivers and like trying to figure out how, to get through those mud swamps and all that. So I think it's more of a challenge.
Okay. So you want to go to Tasmania then?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then he talked about footwear, raincoats as being like the top 2 items. Like he had, a couple things where it's like footwear, raincoat. What would be your top 2 items that like you have to bring on each backpacking trip?
Like besides a backpack?
Yeah, like because that's obvious, you're going backpacking, but then
your
he
big
said
4 items.
Yeah, but what would be your list? Like, what would you say? Because he mentioned footwear and raincoats were his big items after the backpack.
I'm probably the same as him, to be honest, because okay, so footwear, like, if you can't walk comfortably, or if you're in poor shoes, you're gonna tear up your feet. You're just not gonna you're not gonna go anywhere. So you could probably get by without rainwear if you're in a very weather stable environment. But I've seen lack of rainwear almost end people's trips. So
appropriate clothing, maybe then. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. Did you have one?
Yeah, for me, it would be footwear, obviously, because the blisters and that, you got to protect your feet above everything else. And then maybe sleeping bag. Like if I'm not, or sleeping.
That's part of the big 4. Those are the essential 4 things. You have to have those things.
I know, but like I want to put emphasis, because like if you're cold at night or you're not sleeping well, like it's miserable. So let's add a pillow then. Like if you don't have a good pillow, how uncomfortable is it trying to get your arm up there, trying to stuff all your stuff into a makeshift pillow?
Yeah. This is a different conversation. You're talking about luxury items. You can get by without a pillow, but if it's pouring rain and you're hiking still, you're not getting by without the rain jacket, right?
Right. But I don't think that's a top one for me, at least. Like I wouldn't think, I mean, obviously
you'd rather have a good pillow and be drenched in a rainstorm, you're saying?
So what I'm saying is, like, he kept bringing raincoat because wherever he went, it seemed like it was always raining. So he's like, get the raincoat, I'm not talking about like if I'm going, it's raining all the time. For me, I think I almost choose a pillow, even if you think it's luxury, because I want that good sleep. I feel better.
I do too. I'm with you. I want the pillow too. I'm just saying, I don't know if I put that in the same category as raincoat, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm interpreting your question right, but I think raincoat is up there. I haven't had anybody bail on a trip because of the lack of a pillow, but I have had the raincoat be an issue for sure.
That'll be the first. Forgot my pillow. Sorry guys, I'm out.
Forgot my pillow. Yeah, or spoon's another one that everybody seems to forget. Yeah. Anyway, thanks to Mowser for coming on the show. He was a pleasure and just super knowledgeable. It was fun to lean on him and hear his stories and his ideas. I don't know. Was there anything that he said that changed what you would buy? Like, would you buy something different?
I think we've had a lot of guests on, and trekking poles seem to be like the number one item that they're all for all of a sudden. And
right.
I don't hike with trekking poles.
Okay.
As a wildland firefighter, we use hand tools, and I always have that, but I'm carrying it sideways, so I'm not even using it as a trekking pole. So I don't know. I just don't know if I'm there yet to use trekking poles. Like I haven't fallen where I'm like, oh, if I had a trekking pole, this would be great. What about you?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think that if you were going in some pretty rough terrain, I think I'm with him on the using like an aluminum type of trekking pole. But if it's a relatively well-groomed trail, I think I'm sticking with my carbon fiber poles until they break. And once they break, then I'll probably be on his same bandwagon. But yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mowser. Appreciate you. And check out his YouTube channel. We got it linked in the show description if you want to see more of his awesome advice, for sure. Okay. We've got, let's see, I got a couple tidbits. I think I just got one tidbit. Something outdoor related, Ben, that you've wasted money on. What's one thing that comes to mind?
I was trying to think about that. Probably fishing stuff. Every year I get excited for fishing, especially when I grew up in Minnesota. That fishing opener is like a huge deal. And there's so much gear I've wasted on, and fishing lures that were crazy expensive. I mean, $30 for a lure that would just break off or get caught in a tree. So anything fishing related just seems like it was a waste of money. And I scaled down my tackle box to just a small bag now. How about
I don't
you?
know how many fishermen, fisherwomen are listening to the show. We definitely have some, like 100%. But anytime we've done like a fishing based episode, it's like nobody's tuning in for that one. So yeah, kind of funny. All right, for me, okay, I got it right here.
Is it the pocket knife?
For me, this is a pocket made by Sita Chicken
Sita.
Tramper Ultralight Gear.
Okay.
And so they made this pocket that you can kind of put right here on your shoulder strap. So you could kind of slide in whatever, some quick grab items like a cell phone. That's really what I wanted to have it there for all my training days. And so I did the measurements. It fits my cell phone, but it fits it like perfectly. So it's super duper snug. So if I want to quickly grab it out, that is not happening. It's like you know how you have to like squeeze it out like you're squeezing the last little bit of toothpaste out of a tube.
Yeah.
And so they have different sizes, and it was unclear which size to get.
Sure.
It's a small company, and so they don't have like this great return policy. And so I feel like and the other thing too is it says that it fits most backpacks.
Yeah.
And I haven't tried my second backpack yet, but the Gregory Paragon that I'm using, which is a new backpack, it does not fit that one. So
how is it supposed to fit? So because it looked like it was like a shoulder strap basically, or like
so it's like
one of those cross purses.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but there's some different. There's like webbing sometimes on the shoulder strap itself.
Gotcha.
I don't have that, and then there's sometimes there's like these little I don't know. There's these
how much was
horizontal straps on the shoulder straps. It doesn't have that either. So anyway, all I have to say is I think I don't know if I did my research well enough or if I just got taken right there.
I want to know how much you spent on a pocket, because that's what you bought.
Yeah,
you bought a pocket.
Yeah, so these go for, if you're talking like if you want to go to REI and get these, I want to say they're like $15 to $20, not this brand.
Okay.
But they've come on our show before, so I was trying to support them, and so I think I don't know, it's probably $30, like way too much, basically.
$30 for a pocket. Okay.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Perfect.
Thanks for embarrassing me.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh my gosh.
You got me on that one.
Yeah.
You got me. Okay.
Yeah, you made fun of me once because I was like, "Hey, I bring my cell phone on backpacking trips," and you're like, "Oh, that's a waste of everything." And now,
what are you talking about? You're the one that said not to bring a cell phone. You don't want to have a cell phone. I always bring my cell phone on trips for videoing stuff and taking pictures. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, you bought a pocket for it, so I didn't have that.
This is more for. Yeah, I'm going to be putting in a lot of time training. And so I want to have it there to like listen to podcasts and music and that kind of stuff. So that's the thought process.
Sounds good. Speaking of training, we're on Strava. So join us.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know how to link. I'm not good at Strava. Like I don't know how to link Strava. So I don't know. So I just had in our show description, you're just under your name, right? Ben McAuliffe, right?
Yeah.
Just search it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Search it. Backpacking blisters.
I think really. So
yeah.
Yeah. You could follow us and then when I have training events that I post, I'm typically praying. My post is typically like a prayer for somebody that's kind of part of that community. So anyway, Ben, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, just remember, if you're not wasting money, you're not really backpacking.
That's probably true, actually, in a lot of ways. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. God bless.
I want to fly.
B&B, it's Rock, and I am here with my favorite person. Well, Jesus is my favorite, and my second favorite person, of course, is Jennifer. And she's been getting better. She's really improving. She's at a rehabilitation facility right now, and she has been working really hard on speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. But she's had some extra time, too. So as a result of this extra time, she's been able to think about some of the deeper things in life. And one of the questions that she came up with while we were all eating lunch, meaning my sons and her sister, was, are Cheetos a chip? We couldn't figure this one out. We don't know, B&B. We need your help. Isn't that right, love?
Yes.
There we go. Hey, thank you all for all the prayers. But definitely keep praying. We're praying for as many of you as we can. And let us know, are Cheetos a chip?